Good evening. Welcome to Right Talk with Mike Lee. Today's edition of my show is one that I look forward to all the time because it covers one of my favorite topics, which is family law and the challenges that are faced in dealing with family law issues. And my guests today are Jennifer on the far end of my right, and in the middle is Cynthia. I hesitate to call them Jennifer and Cynthia X because I don't want to be confused as being black Muslims or anything like that. But I want to talk to you ladies about the challenges that you faced in the family law area. I know there's a case that I haven't used to myself now, presently. And it seems to me that judges just do what they want to do. And while the federal rules of civil procedure and Texas rules of civil procedure, Rule 1 says, construe these rules so that justice is toward the just, speedy, and inexpensive administration of justice. And in my experience, and that's what, 42, 43 years now, is anything but just, is anything surely not speedy, and surely not inexpensive. In fact, in the family law area, in too many instances, it's more expensive and more unjust because, and I've always contended that, I don't have so much problems with the law as much as I have with those who administer the law. Because you don't know what kind of agendas are going on or why what's happening is happening. Now, I think I met you several months ago. I just met you for the first time today. What's your story, Jennifer, about what's your experience in this area?
My experience with family law has been very negative and devastating, to say the least. It wasn't speedy. It was a very drawn-out process, and it just was totally skewed and biased.
Were you money whipped?
Yes, to say the least.
That's
Yes.
a term I just picked up in the last couple of weeks. Someone said, but I think it's very apt and appropriate to use in the context of family law because usually the one with the most money and who can pay the most money wins.
Yes, that was the truth in my case. Definitely.
Your case was in Travis County?
Yes, sir.
Was it a custody case?
Yes.
And did it involve a little boy or a little girl? Or tell me about it.
Well, I have 4 children
If it's
total.
okay.
Yes, 4 total. 2 of which are older from a previous marriage, and 2 are younger from this marriage. So it was a complicated, complex situation, but my ex-husband had wanted custody of the younger 2 children, so it got pretty sticky when he involved my first husband, and they kind of teamed up, and he started harassing me with court for the older 2 children.
So it got to be payback time.
Right. And so, the judge ordered a custody evaluation.
For the first 2 or the last 2?
For the last 2. So, he said that it should only cost about $3,000, and that because, my ex's attorney had requested a certain psychologist to do it, that they could pay her, and that it should, cost no more than $4,000. But in the end of this custody evaluation, it ended up she was paid a lot more by my ex-husband, and she was very biased.
How much more was she paid? How much was she paid in all of this? You said if it was supposed to be a $3,000 proposition.
Yes, and she
much
was
is that
paid more
proposition?
than $22,000 for a custody evaluation.
Okay.
And so she did not spend very much time with my children. Maybe she spent about 15 minutes with my youngest daughter. My youngest son, she didn't even speak to because he was so little at the time. And then my older 2 children, she didn't spend very much time speaking to, and yet it was dragged out for over a year, and it was just a horrific battle in court, basically.
And how many different lawyers did you employ in the course of this litigation?
I was a stay-at-home mom for the entire marriage, so I was not prepared financially to pay for a divorce, and I didn't see it coming, so it was very, blindsiding and shocking, but I didn't even have the money to retain an attorney. My father had to step in and retain an attorney for me, who did everything he could, but, you know, against what we were up against, because my ex had hired a very well-known law firm at the time, it was very stressful.
What law firm was that?
At the time, it was Noelke English Maples.
And your case was in Travis County?
Yes.
Now, in my experience, working in Travis County family law is not fun. Because it's like when you go down for your hearing, you may get the judge of the day. And one day you go, you may have one judge. The next time you may have a different judge who, to your knowledge, knows nothing about it except for notes that the first judge may have put in the file that that the attorneys don't see, and
yes.
surely the litigants don't see.
Right, and that's the way it was with me.
Which kind of sucks.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can wait all day. You'll be on the docket at 8:30. They may not get to you until 2:30, but you don't know that until you get there.
Right. So it's very costly to a single mother, you know, trying to maintain a job and be in court and, you know, pay the bills.
And what happened to you, Cynthia? What all happened to you?
happened. I've been stuck in family court for about 6.5 years now, with no lawful resolution, I should say. The only hearing that we've had, the only fair hearing where we actually, you know, a real hearing where you go present evidence and decide final orders, I actually won that. And so that didn't make my son's father happy, and so they went and filed, you know, motions for rehearing. They brought up evidence that was available before, entered it again, which is res judicata. Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
And the judge, you know, they threw anything out that the judge would listen to. And so from my experience, you know, once they create some bias and chaos and start getting the judge on their side, it turns into a snowball effect. And so they got the judge to grant a motion for a new trial, and it was literally 2 months after I had just won primary custody. And then Dad's, at that time, the judge gave Dad temporary custody because I was living outside the school district, outside of the county. Our school district encompasses 2 counties. And so if it was going to stay in court, she wanted it in her courtroom, and if I was primary parent, it would have moved it to Travis County.
Mm-hmm.
So she gave Dad a 6-month trial, you know, lectured Dad about the things, the reasons that she didn't side with him, and basically gave him a 6-month trial and said, you know, I want to be back here with Dad's therapist, saying that, you know, the kid doesn't live in fear of speaking up to his dad, and all of the things that was the concerns of the mental health professionals and things. You know, she wanted to see that was corrected. Ended up, again, like Jennifer, getting a custody evaluation signed, ordered, and all of that. My custody evaluation was actually originally ordered as a psychological evaluation of the child. This custody evaluator got it switched over so that she could do a full-blown custody evaluation, even though I had just done one 17 months prior.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was all about the money. Her evaluation took 17 months, cost $42,000, and none of that ever actually entered my courtroom. The judge, in the meantime, opposing counsel, ex parte emailed the judge final orders that he wanted signed, and the judge signed them the very next day with no hearing, no notice to me, no final orders, no nothing. Now, there's a few other events, but I mean, they're minor. But so there was never even a hearing. I never got to have a second hearing. I never got to see these final orders that were entered. They entered them. They never notified me after the fact. There was no service, no nothing. So they made sure that all of this that happened behind closed doors, I didn't find out about it until after the appellate deadline was over.
And I was going to ask you, did the judgment become final before you found out?
They signed them that day. I actually, I even dug it up.
But was it 30? Was it 30 days or more before you found out?
Yes, it was more than 30 days before I found out, because so I couldn't appeal it.
Right.
But so what I did was I did a open records request to the county IT department, and I asked for all email correspondence regarding my case. So they handed me the email that says, right here is where opposing counsel emailed the judge, the court coordinator, and didn't include me. I did not have an attorney at that time. And oddly enough, that week, Wednesday, we had released my attorney because it was Christmas. I was looking at bringing on a new attorney. There was nothing scheduled. So on Wednesday, we released my attorney. The judge signed orders that said, there's nothing else pending. There's, this motion to release my attorney, and then there was the county does these the dismissals, because once your case is on the books for like 5 years, they automatically dismiss it. Opposing counsel said, no, we want to retain it on the books. There was nothing serious pending. So my attorney gets released from my case. The judge signs these orders saying there's no other pending motions and hearings happening. Thursday, the very next day, is when this email was sent. Opposing counsel emailed the judge, the court coordinator actually, and said, here's some final orders that we want signed. Then that was Thursday. The very next day, on Friday, the judge says, I just signed the order. Go ahead and file it. And then the court coordinator responds back and says, yes, it's done.
Okay.
So that was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There was never a hearing. This $42,000 evaluation never even entered my courtroom, because all of this got done behind closed doors without me even knowing.
Now let me ask you ladies this one, just to give my viewers an idea of how much money this stuff has cost. Now you talked about a $3,000 evaluation that ended up being $23,000. Now you've talked about a $42,000 evaluation that was supposed to cost probably far less than that.
And that was my second one.
Let's just say, how much have you spent totally in connection with this litigation, if you had to guess, and just a ballpark figure?
Probably more than $50,000. That's nothing compared to most cases that I know of.
Okay.
Mine's probably close to $250,000.
What?
Yeah. Well, because I get these final orders entered, I file a bill of review, got to get an attorney for that. We try and get the judge for 2 years now to grant a bill of review hearing, and she refuses. So what she does in the meantime, she doesn't want to admit that she did anything wrong. And so what she does is she then orders us to mediation and all of this interim stuff. So we spent one day, she ordered us to a full day of mediation to mediate the bill of review. Well, the bill of review is only about the violation of due process.
Right.
Has nothing, it's a separate case number. There's the family law case and there's the bill of review case. There's nothing to mediate with my ex on whether my civil rights were violated. But we had to sit there for an entire day and spend $8,000 in mediation because she ordered it. And so she's trying to do anything she can to get us to agree out of court so that she doesn't have to go back and say she did anything wrong. In the end, we kept pushing it, and she came to my attorney. She called a meeting in her chambers and flat out told my attorney that I will go to jail and I will get supervised visitation of my son. I will spend 6 months in jail, was the maximum she can order, and supervised visitation of my son, and that I needed to settle and not come back to her courtroom again. And then I brought the email. She said it over repeatedly. I have no problem putting her in jail. And there was no reason. And even in that hearing, it wasn't a hearing, it was a meeting with our attorneys in her private chambers. She's talking about things. My attorney took copious notes and emailed them to me within hours. And she's talking about things that have happened since the last time we've had a hearing. The last time she had allowed me into her courtroom to have an actual hearing had been 2.5, almost 3 years. But the stuff that she's talking about is all information that's more recent than the recent hearing, right? So that would have to be ex parte communications.
So
how does she know?
She received some information that wasn't really in the record, but that had been given to her.
Right. So they're only supposed to take into account what happens in a courtroom.
Right, correct.
Evidence and things. I had not been in her courtroom for over 2.5 years, and she's talking about all these things I don't like about Mom, and it's from the last 2 years. How does she know? I mean, it's all lies and made up stuff that she's been fed by the opposing side to create the bias and the chaos and turn her against me. And so now she's going to throw me in jail based upon all of their lies.
Well, there's like a general perception that whoever has the most money wins, or it's not a matter of what your case is or what the
Factually.
merits are,
Mm-hmm.
but how much money you have and who you know or who they know.
I think that even continues on up. And when we filed a motion to recuse, she
Mhm.
denied it. We had a recusal hearing. They refused to recuse her. They said the proper procedure was a mandamus for violation of due process. So mandamus went to the Court of Appeals. It was dismissed in 5 days. The mandamus went to the Texas Supreme Court, and after 4 months, it was dismissed by them. For a clear and blatant, I've got orders that were signed on a day that there was not even a hearing. December 1st, 2017, there was not even a hearing in Burnett County. So how is it that these orders exist right here with that file stamp?
Mhm.
And I can't get any resolution through Court of Appeals, Texas Supreme Court. And so it's all, you talk about the money you spend, it's all put into that, trying to correct one act that happened behind closed doors
So just speedy and inexpensive is a joke.
is a joke. And people go into the family court system expecting things to be fair and people aren't going to be biased, and that's far from the truth.
Right.
All of the experts in my case, we've had several therapists, we've had 2 custody evaluations. The absolute minimum that anybody recommend that I have is a 50-50 time with my son. The judge in those orders that I never got to see, I get less than standard visitation because opposing counsel put their entire wish list into a set of orders, and the judge signed them without me knowing. And so it goes completely against anything any custody evaluators recommended. The child's therapists say that the child should primarily be with me. One of the therapists said it's some of the worst emotional abuse they've seen at Dad's house. But none of that matters because I don't have the right people on my table. I don't have enough money,
Mhm.
and I don't have the right attorneys at my table with me. And so in that email, in that meeting with my attorney, that one that I spoke of earlier, the judge even flat out said, I don't care what the child wants. I don't care what his therapists say is best for him. She basically is like, I don't like your client, and I'm going to put her in jail if she keeps pushing this for a correction on these orders. So, there's even things in there like you know how you go to court and you have your wish list and their wish list, and things usually meet in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I never even got to see their list, and so the judge signed everything they wanted into order. I got minimum visitation. I get, less than standard. I see my kid a third of the summer, where normally, even like summers and things are 50-50 when kids aren't in school, and I didn't get any of that. And they put in there things like the child support that I paid. They pulled a number out of the air. What they wanted, they put down on a piece of paper, They may have gone back 10 years and picked the year I made the most money, and that's what they decide I'm going to pay today. I don't know where they got this number, but it's not accurate. And then they said, oh, she owes child support back to the date she filed.
Mhm.
And so they put in there, I'm $16,000 behind in child support, when I'm not. They do that, they run your credit. It shows up once as a monthly loan that's late. It shows up as a loan that's defaulted, and it also shows up on a background check. So I'm still driving a 12-year-old car because I can't get a new car. I can't get a lease unless I go into some low credit apartment complex.
Mhm.
I can't get a lease on like a normal home and things like I used to live in. When I go to interview for jobs, it shows up on my background check, and I have to
Mhm.
explain that. And it's all a lie, and I can't get anybody to correct it. They can make up whatever they want, put it on a piece of paper, and get it signed behind closed doors.
Well, we were talking before the show started, and one of the things I was telling you guys about, you ladies, about. I went to court today in Lockhart, and I went to county court. It's the first time I saw a sign that said, "No recording, this, that, and the other, or take your cell phone and temporarily or something." And I had been thinking a few weeks ago about the fact that things that happen in divorce court and family court and most criminal courts is public. Anybody can go sit in there and listen if they want to, as long as they don't read the newspaper and fall asleep and use a cell phone. And it occurred to me, I said, why not record? Because we're in an age where we have the technology to do it, and the cost of a transcript is just ungodly.
Yes.
For real.
Mm-hmm. Thousands.
It's ungodly expensive.
Thousands.
And I'm sure that things that go on in a courtroom can be recorded and stored more cheaply than having a stenographer do it like we're in the 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 21st century last time I checked.
Yes.
Not the 19th, not the 18th.
You could just
Not the
record the
20th.
audio and let Siri
Record
transcribe
it.
it.
But then
it's
people would be held
it's as
accountable.
though, but then to me, if that were possible, then a voter could theoretically should be able to access those and really look at what the person does that they elected.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be a more efficient way, I think, of holding them accountable than just by guessing at the voting time. Judge so and so, they look for R&Ds and stuff like that. A person could actually go and see what Judge so and so has been doing,
Yes.
and their friends could say, "Well, have you seen this? When Judge so and so did this on such and such a day?" They could go look it up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it comes down to accountability. Is the way I believe would be the correction mechanism. Now I met you through Rhonda, right?
Mm-hmm.
I met Jennifer through you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it seems to me that what Rhonda's doing. Let's see, I met Rhonda, Ron and Sherry Palmer, but all the common thread is there's just injustice in the family law area that really should not exist.
Mm-hmm.
Really. And there's a case that I have. It's in Harris County, which is a whole nother horror story. But I for whatever reason I believe in the law. It's not the people. It's the law is fine. It's the folks. Because I've seen judges just do what they want to do. Just ignore the law.
Mm-hmm.
And then the appeals court, it seems to me, exists more to maintain or sustain or cover up or try to make right what somebody else did before rather than correct it.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than look at it critically, they're looking at it from the standpoint of how can I uphold this?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just upheld unless it's just absolutely ridiculous to uphold it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get people that have been, like she was saying, in this system for 6 years or more, they're just getting rich. It's all about money. So it's extortion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean to me it's a shakedown.
Mm-hmm.
You got.
My judge is going to throw me in jail if I don't pay them the child support that they unlawfully put in final orders. That's extortion. She's saying you're going to get supervised visitation of your child if you don't pay him $16,000 that you don't owe. She said that in that, that's a quote from the email from my attorney. It's extortion.
And to me that there should be some kind of way that you can get that rectified. Or get it straightened out. There should be. This is though they want to turn their head. It doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just, a lot of viewers probably don't understand as much as the law as I've been forced to learn, but, it takes a lot to get from that point A to point B, how many laws that have to be broken. Texas, if there's any order that has anything to do with any finality, they have to give you 40 days in advance notice of any final orders. They have to notify you in advance. That's why people get served. That's why there's the green cards and things. None of that ever happened. The fact that they communicate ex parte is against the law. You can't just sign orders in your chambers on a day where there's no hearing. You can't not give me a hearing. You can't enter final orders and then not notify me of it after the fact. I mean, there's like 8 serious laws that were broken, and it's been over 2 years. And I can't get any rectification on any of
Now, a
that.
couple of months ago, you told me you were filing something in the Supreme Court.
I did. I filed a
Did
mandamus.
you do that on your own, or did the lawyer assist you with
I
that?
did a lot of the research and I wrote the mandamus. It was proofed by attorneys before I sent it in.
Mm-hmm. And they bounced it after 4 months, you said?
Mm-hmm. Court of Appeals bounced it after 5 days.
Was that the third?
Third Court of Appeals, yeah. And it's not like you have to get into the convoluted, there's nothing about my case where you have to get into the he said, she said. You don't have to read anything about the case itself. You can look at my orders and go look and see what happened December 1st in my county. There was no hearing, like this is anybody, Burnett County 41790, go pull it up. You can see clear as day anybody that has a basic understanding of the law that those, even just the summary sheet, you can look at that and see.
It's not so much, I don't think it's so much an understanding of the law as much it's just common sense.
Right.
To me. You can read.
But there's not anybody.
And sometimes it's right there, right in the face of the record.
Mm-hmm.
But the appeals courts, their deal is, if there's any kind of way to uphold it, uphold it.
Mm-hmm.
Any kind of way.
Yep.
Any kind of flimsy way I can uphold. Their duty, they look at that their duty as being one to really. So you have to show that something was really, really, really messed up.
And to me, mine pretty much is. I'm not.
And I think that. I guess that's why when I read stories about people going to courthouse shooting them up and stuff like that, I say this judge got shot. I think to myself, I wonder what he did. He may have actually deserved it, because there was a video I had one time. The guy was shooting at somebody. The guy was ducking behind the tree. But it's some real wrong things are going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have to believe that the ultimate mechanism is to hold them accountable. And I've always felt that if in Travis County, during one election, if one judge got voted, if Rhonda and Ron, all those people pulled together and somehow got one judge unelected, I think that would change the whole ball game.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I hear the same thing from like Travis, Williamson, Hayes, Bastrop. I've met people just in all this. You do research, trying to figure out. You always expect the next person to do the right thing, and they don't. Whether it's recusing a judge, Court of Appeals, Texas Supreme Court. I filed a judicial complaint that was dismissed. It doesn't matter. Like, nobody along the way is going to say a judge did anything wrong. They're pretty much untouchable to do whatever they want. And so I've met people through all of this in the 6 years I've been in it. And, that's how I met Jennifer. And, it seems like there's similar cases in a lot of the counties, but, especially, Travis County, I think, because there's so many people. But there's a lot of stories that come out of Travis County.
I can tell you what happened to me personally. I worked for a firm here in Travis County, and that lawyer was doing crooked things. He was hiring lawyers, bringing in cases, and not paying the lawyers and collecting all the money. And when I complained about it, there was a lawyer who told me I couldn't win. I said, hell, I can't. There's a Texas payday law.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I won. Eventually I filed a complaint with the bar. 2 clients filed complaints with the bar about them not giving me their file. They complained to the bar. I complained to the bar. The bar dismissed my complaint and dismissed their complaints. And then, was it 2 years later? They came up, they finally caught up with him. And they disciplined him. They were going to suspend him. And then he resigned from the bar, probably so he can reapply. It's easier that way.
Mm-hmm.
But he resigned from the bar, and when they did the order, they repeated what I had told them. What I had told them 2 years before. And I ended up filing my claim with the Workforce Commission. We had a hearing with them. There was a hearing at which he didn't show up, and they declared that I won. But the bar did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand before he absconded with about $900,000. He's probably somewhere in the Philippines living large.
Mm-hmm.
And after I had reported what I reported, I went back to the office where we were last office, and there were 5 more lawyers working there. And when I wrote my complaint to the bar, I said, "What happened to me, I don't want to see it happen to another lawyer, and you guys should try to prevent this."
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't for 2 years. And that's the kind of thing that's why I can understand how you can get discouraged. Because I was discouraged. I wasn't discouraged. Another lawyer told me, "You can't win." I told him, "I don't know where you went to law school. I know you went to UT, but I went to SMU. We don't play that. I know the law. I know I kind of like know how it's supposed to go. If it doesn't go like that, I try to make it go the right way. Because you have to. It's a long. Unfortunately, it's a long, drawn out fight,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to have a lot of hang in there in this, for real.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when I was in school. It was just so painful. I got to just hang on. I learned to hang on just for hanging on's sake, because I didn't know how to do anything else but hang on.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets like that. But the helplessness and the hopelessness is something that a person should not have to experience. Not in 2020.
Right.
Well, even in Jennifer's case, she had mentioned that, she spent, $50,000 on her case. They also ordered, tell them about you had to pay.
Yes, I was court ordered by the judge to repay him $100,000 for his attorney's fees. So.
Which puts you into forced bankruptcy.
Forced bankruptcy for 3 years. And, on top of all of this, you're dealing with emotional trauma.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with the accusations and the biased report and the blatant lies that were spoken of you in open court.
Now, both of you mentioned stuff about the evaluator. Did you have the same evaluator?
Yes.
Who was that?
Alyssa Sherry.
I've heard that name
Mm-hmm.
a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost as though in the court, like in baseball, you have designated hitters. It's like she's a designated hitter,
Yep.
and everyone uses her.
Well, hopefully they're, coming around, but.
And she has an interesting Facebook page, and she says some interesting things on there, which make me wonder about the nature and tenor of her connections.
Yes.
But that's me.
Yes.
I'm allowed to wonder.
Right.
Well, we want to know why more people aren't wondering. This is someone that's given, jurisdiction, free reign, acting instead of a judge with his immunity to make decisions, and then there's no recompense for us. There's no accountability to hold her accountable.
Well, the other thing that and I hadn't thought about it until I was doing the show one day, and I was talking with the guests, is that in the fact of the matter is, in the family code, they talk about the best interest of the child. To me, those are just like words, just thrown out there.
Yeah.
But it was pointed out to me, it's not defined.
Right.
Because you can't define it, really. And so it's left up to judges and juries in some instances to decide. Now,
Well, and a lot of times when we talk about the custody evaluators, they're brought in to kind of be the expert and do the judge's job. And even, there's even been cases where we've helped people and stuff that you have a jury but then when they go bring in, custody evaluator, most people are going to say, well, this person's an expert. She has a PhD. A lot of times when a jury's just deciding between mom and dad, they can take things into account.
Right.
But then when you then bring in like this PhD expert, it becomes whoever can lie, cheat, and manipulate the situation with that custody evaluator the best is who wins, because this court-appointed professional then comes back with a decision, and even if it's a judge or jury, it takes a lot to overcome that expert's opinion now,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so when you've got an expert that comes in and will ignore mounds and mounds of evidence and take their false narrative and put that into a report and not put 1 ounce of your evidence into the report, and then that's what gets handed over to a judge and a jury, now you've trying to discredit a PhD level expert to, you're not only fighting the battle at, in the courtroom with your ex and over your kids, now you've got to pick a battle with discrediting this expert that was court appointed by the judge, which is going to make the judge mad if you discredit, her expert. And
You fight against the pound higher and deeper.
right. And so that's why I think a lot of attorneys know this is the route to take, because if they have one in their pocket or something, you can't reverse that regardless of it. And
they always get one that's preferred by the court or worked with the court a lot.
It's the same attorneys using the same people.
How it comes about. That's why I say it's kind of like a racket.
Yep.
Reminds me of what? Racketeering, influence, corrupt organization. It's a RICO organization. When I worked at Judicial Watch in Washington, D.C., we had accused the Clintons of having a RICO organization. They really do. 16 dead bodies at the time.
Probably some more since then.
Yeah, probably. Who's it? He probably had Epstein too.
Yeah. But even in my case, the custody evaluation, we went through it. We spent 17 months, paid $42,000. It didn't even make it into my courtroom. Like, that's the level that, I don't hate to use the word corruption, but that's the level of unlawful acts that happen where. Why would you order a $42,000 custody evaluation, wait for it, and then enter orders without even looking at it? That's why none of it makes sense in my case.
Unless you had your mind made up in the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, I've actually gone to attorneys, like, trying to get help on my case. And if I go to attorneys in Burnett County, their attorneys have told me, we're one of her favorite attorneys, and you're going to have to attack her to win, and we don't want to play that game because she likes us. And then I've gone to attorneys in Austin, and I've been told by people, you need to go get her favorite attorneys in her county, because I've been in her court. We won a trial. All we had to do is come back for a quick little 20-minute signing the final orders because she'd already made the decision. Opposing side shows up with new counsel that's one of her favorites. And in that little 20-minute session, she reverses everything she did and sides with them. So there's attorneys, like, you get stuck in a situation like that, and now you can't find attorneys to take it on, because people that know the system know if she's got a favorite attorney or favored side or whatnot on this case, that it's pointless. We're not going to win. Then they don't want the case.
I wish there was some way you and Rhonda and Ron and Sherry and everyone who's aggrieved by this circumstance to organize. Just pick one judge and pick them off. Seriously. Pick them off. Pick one and pick them off.
I think the problem, most people get tired.
Yeah.
Once your
tiring.
kids age out, you spend a few years, like, it was enough to the battle you fought in family court to then turn around and try and correct what's going on in family court, which is, I think, why it's allowed. We've filed complaints. I've taken my case to, all that's left is Texas, the United States Supreme Court. I'm not even sure at this point. It was just dismissed a couple of weeks ago. But even with like the custody evaluator, people have filed complaints against her. There's a list that I saw where there was, 15 known cases, 15 complaints that were known about, and this is just people that found each other. She actually, there was a board of psychology meeting where she tried to want to be immune from complaints, and she sent an email out to all of her people that she thought would support her, all the attorneys, all the other counselors and things. And what happened was those attorneys and counselors had seen cases that were wrong and unlawful things were done. And so what happened was, like, the way Jennifer found out was her attorney had emailed her, so everybody's, she thinks all these people are going to show up in support of me, and what they did was they emailed their clients and said, do you know she's doing this? So that email went out on a Tuesday, and the board of psychology meeting was on a Thursday, I think.
Yes.
And there was 14 people that showed up to speak, that took off work, that took the time to go downtown to speak against her, that were so wronged by her. So if there was 14 people that took the time off to take a day off work to go speak against her, can you imagine how many are really out there?
What was the outcome, though?
Nothing. Board of psychology just keeps dismissing complaints.
They ignore it.
They were irritated that they had to sit there for an hour and listen to us, I think. Nothing.
Listen to 14 people?
We get 3 minutes at the beginning of the meeting to speak.
Right.
And so they had to listen to, and they let a lot of people go over, but it was well over an hour. There was nothing. That was over a year ago, and absolutely nothing has happened. Nothing.
But she did say that we were crazy and just disgruntled people. Like we haven't, like we're all just
like we
lost our mind and we're just crazy going after her. That's what she appeared to make it look like.
And so it's almost like it doesn't matter if it's judges or, like you were saying, it doesn't matter who you complain to. Like, once something's put in action, the effort that it takes to correct that one little action, that one day, December 1st, when these orders got signed behind closed doors without me knowing, look at what I've spent for years trying to correct those. And so that's all it takes. And the way that they get this done is they show up in court and they create chaos and create bias and any dirt that they can throw, that just to get the judge to think, maybe did she do this? Then you've constantly got to prove none of this stuff is true. And it's just constant lies and lies and lies about things.
And you can't prove a negative anyway.
I can't get back in court to prove it. I haven't been in her courtroom since 2015. 2016, maybe. I forget. I have to think. It's been at least a few years.
Okay, now what next?
I don't know what's next.
Well, we have open carry in Texas. So there's always hope. There's always hope.
Well, but
well, we do believe in hope. We're still fighting, and we're still trying to
That's why we're here.
Prevent.
But you know what? Based on my conversation with Ron and Sherry Palmer, what we're talking about and what complaint is being made about is not confined to Travis County.
Oh, no.
Or Texas.
Right.
No.
It's a nationwide problem.
Yes.
Yeah. I know, I've kind of gotten involved with people and started helping cases, because if you can catch cases early on, you can at least give advice. I've even had attorneys calling me on advice for certain things because they know it's something that I had been through. And there's a nonprofit out there that I was helping also form. It's the Coalition for Family Court Reform, and it's familycourtreform.com. It's hyphenated, so you have to go family-court-reform.com. And that's a lot of it. There's people from different specialties. There's somebody that used to be a police investigator who's good at looking into the cases and reading through it. That, if there's cases that you can catch early on and people that need help, or, people all of these crazy things that should have never happened.
Yes, because
if you can catch them along the way and help steer them in the right direction. There's about 4 different cases right now that are a focus of trying to correct.
I think Ron and Sherry Palmer, there's a National Family Law Policy Center, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's something like that. And but I just think that we need somehow to organize and, as John Lewis said, make some noise. I still think picking off a judge is the best way. Is the best way to send the message.
Well, the problem with making noise, and even like with Jennifer and I, is we still have kids that are under 18, and as long as you have kids under 18, anything you speak out about, they can
use
take this and use it against you. So nobody's going to speak out until their children are 18, and then once they're 18, you're kind of ready for vacation. You're done fighting all of that, and so the system is set up that it doesn't matter what's gone wrong or unlawful acts or anything. It doesn't matter because you can't speak out, and if you try, they gag you, they seal the case. There's parents that are in contempt of court if they were to do what I did today without even mentioning names. They can't speak out about their case, or they will be put in jail. Gag orders and sealing cases, that's, I'm shocked mine's not, but I haven't been able to get back in a courtroom yet to get it sealed. So
don't go back in and get and not come out. That's just to worry about.
Well, I mean, that's, you live, I know lots of parents that live every day not knowing if they're going to go to jail tomorrow. They could find me in contempt of court for not paying him $16,000 that I don't owe him, that I don't have to pay him. They wrote things into that order so that they can immediately turn around and find me in contempt of court when they're not justified. And the interesting thing about that is I even went back through our transcripts and I found where the judge had looked at something with our tax returns and said, here's about what child support should be. But then she signed off on orders that were much more than that. And so I don't even know that she read these orders. So it was one of her favorite attorneys that needed this signed, and I don't know that she even read them. I don't think that a judge can give you less than standard visitation without there being a reason.
They're supposed to have an explanation.
I think by law there has to be something that says, why do you get less than standard?
Right.
No, it was just signed. Every expert on the case says I should either be primary or have 50-50. But because of the chaos that they've been able to create and the bias that they've been able to create, I have less than standard visitation, and I can't get out from under any of that. I've had no success whatsoever. And it's not arguing anything complicated. Due process is a basic right. It's a constitutional right. I have clearly had 5th and 14th Amendment violations. And, and so if my case can get swept under the rug and nobody will help with even, Court of Appeals and Texas Supreme Court, you can imagine like when there's lower levels of unlawful acts, if mine can get swept under, think about all of the cases where it's just one little thing here and there. There's so many cases and so many things where people are just in wrongful situations. Justice was not served. And I don't know how you fix it, but, I know there are people out there trying.
The bad part is it only takes one unloosed parent with bad intentions and bad motives to create holy hell.
Well, there is a Travis County case where there was a father that killed himself and the little girl.
Killed himself and a little girl?
Yep.
I wonder how the judge sleeps. Probably just fine.
And so, there are people that can't deal with it. It's happened in Travis County. He wrote an email to the judge and sat there and told the judge how I sit here every night trying to figure out where that bullet's going to go so she goes through the least amount of pain, talking about his own daughter. Just because the trauma that the family court system put it through and drove somebody to that extent. Now,
so
I don't know.
And he killed the child too?
I don't know, the mental stability of the case or anything, but you would think if he was that mentally unstable, the psychologist involved wouldn't have had the kid alone in the first place. But there's a lot of people that go through a lot of trauma, just the abuse of the court system,
Yes.
litigation abuse and things. People that constantly battle with anxiety and PTSD
Yes.
and things, and the cause of it was the family court system.
Yes.
Children that spend years in therapy because of what the family court system has done.
I don't know if it was Ron or someone else that I had on this show who had their spouse had killed their child. They killed themselves. I don't know who it was, but it was someone I had on the show. Someone Rhonda had rounded up for me at some point. But I just wish that, for me personally, that I wish that people in my profession, because I blame my profession, that includes the judges and the lawyers and the sometimes the CPS workers, but to me the legal professionals are in a position to not shut it down. They're in a position to shut it down completely, not just change it a little bit, but just behaving ethically and responsibly.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't see that happening. I just don't understand it. I don't understand it.
Right.
I don't understand. You're supposed to apply the law. The law says this, and you're just going to do something else just because it's how you feel that day, because you got gas that day.
That's what they do.
But that's not right, you know? And that's people. That's not the law. That's that person.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, a judge that behaves in that manner should be unelected.
Well,
And
they should be.
From what I sense, there are a few of them down there in Travis County who should be unelected.
Mm-hmm.
And I say make a list. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. Make a list.
Yeah.
And get rid of them. Try to anyway.
I know in my county, there's nobody that ran against her.
There's a big redhead next door who she organizes some protests against the mayor. There's something against the mayor about trying to recall the mayor or something. And then he was acting up in front of his house and stuff like that.
Wow.
Got some real rebel rouses around here.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that kind of action is necessary. I really do.
Definitely awareness is
I fight.
key.
I fight in court and all that good stuff, and I got some racism skirmishes I'm going on through right now in Hayes County. But I actually have mathematical evidence of racist practice. I have it, and I filed it in court and act like I had done something wrong. Well, I'm sorry. It's not me. It's the evidence. You deal with it. And someone told me, I don't know if I'll do it. They're probably going to shoot me. When I was in college, I wanted to get assassinated anyway. Because you get assassinated for telling the truth. Other people just get killed. You know? I want to get assassinated, and for my 21st birthday, I wanted a hydrogen bomb. Because I could become a world power. Overnight. Give me a bomb. Because I'd let it go. I'd strap myself to it. I'd be the first one to go. I could straighten out all this. I said, man, it's a crazy little black man over there, man. He strapped himself to a bomb. He doesn't mind going. He's crazy. I think we ought to act right. He'll blow up the whole sucker. He doesn't mind going. I'll go first. But what's right is right. I believe in trying to do what's right. I guess that's why I named the show Right Talk. I try to get it right. I'm not trying to do wrong. I mean, I fall short sometimes. And sometimes I enjoy falling short. It's kind of fun. It's like I told my professor when I say, vice is more interesting than virtue. But he said, would you rather be president or vice president? I said, I'd rather be vice president. As in president of vice. He thought I was nuts. But anyway, I want to thank you ladies for being on the show.
Thank you.
Cynthia
for
X
having
and
us.
Jennifer X.
Thank you for having us.
No, you have to come back again sometime.